Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The North Ridgeville City Council meeting is now in session. Today is Monday, May 6, 2024. Please rise for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. Father, we come together again and thank you for the wonderful community in which we live. In recognition of next week being National Police Week, we thank you for the hardworking and dedicated men and women of the North Ridgeville Police Department. We ask that you watch over and protect each of them always, but especially as they carry out their duties to protect and serve our community. We ask this in your name, amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk, please call the roll.
Swink.
Here.
Schaefer.
Here.
Abens.
Here.
Winkle.
Excused.
Awig.
Here.
DeVries.
Here.
Jacobs.
Here.
Mr. Mayor.
Here.
Law Director.
Here.
Engineer. Finance Director.
Here.
Clerk of Council here.
Under the approval of minutes tonight, we have several meeting minutes that require council action. First up are the committee of the whole meeting minutes dated April 15th, 2024. Are there any changes or corrections to those minutes? Hearing none, the minutes stand approved. We also have the regular city council meeting minutes also dated April 15th, 2024. Are there changes or corrections to those minutes? Hearing none, the minutes stand approved. And lastly, we have the committee of the whole meeting minutes dated April 22nd, 2024. Are there any changes or corrections to those? Hearing none, those minutes stand approved. Please note that council has also received the Parks and Recreation Commission meeting minutes dated March 27th, 2024, the Civil Service Commission meeting minutes dated April 22nd, 2024, as well as the Board of Zoning and Building Appeals meeting minutes dated April 25th, 2024. That brings us to our lobby session. In a moment, I will open our lobby session. As a reminder to those who are here in council chambers, in the interest of time, the lobby session is not meant to be an interactive question and answer session. However, it is an opportunity for the public to address city council as well as the city administration. We do welcome your feedback and appreciate it. Depending on the nature of your comments, a council member will be in touch with you. Audience members wishing to speak, we do ask that you speak from the podium and from the podium only, please. We will ask that you begin by stating your name and address for the record, and at that time, you will be allowed up to 3 minutes to speak regarding any matter pertaining to the business of City Council or the general affairs of the City of North Ridgeville. So at this time, the lobby session is now open. I do have several written submissions that I have received, and I will take those in the order in which they were received. Up first, Mrs. Sturmel.
Kim Sturmel, 37872 Sugar Ridge Road. I received the Sugar Ridge Road Rehabilitation Project study, and I have a lot of questions. And the first question is, they're shifting the road possibly 1 to 2 feet. They talk about doing this to accommodate sewer project. That's the first I've heard about sewers. Second one, they're looking at 8-foot bike paths on each side of the road. On the north side, they're going to, well, first of all, I need to know what kind of base is under the bike paths. Is it the same as the road? If it is this a third lane they're looking at, or a turning lane, or I couldn't find that information. Outside of the bike path, there's going to be a 5-foot swale on the north side for drainage, and then a 5-foot sidewalk. I really don't know if this is all needed. On Center Ridge Road, you have one bike path and you have a sidewalk. And I don't understand why we need 2 8-foot bike paths. I mean, it's gonna cost us. From the figures that came off of this study, it was, the study is for March 2023, and the total is $8.2 million. That's to pave the road, bike paths, sidewalks. In that price is included a roundabout at Bender, and then taking the curve out of Sugar Ridge. I mean, I don't know where we're gonna come up with the money. They said a smaller roundabout will be less. If they add a large roundabout, for trucks, it'll be a lot more. So I don't know what's in the plan there. I don't know where can you justify 8.2 million? We got people standing in the road marking off the right-of-ways and that because they have concerns. And I don't know where to go or what to do. So I'm open. Mr. Jacobs has helped me, but I need a whole lot more input. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Sturmel. Up next is Mr. Craig.
Albert Craig, 37903 Sugar Ridge Road. About a week ago, I don't know if anybody knows about it, we had a pretty good crash on Sugar Ridge Road. I was right there. We had an old rest home bus get rolled over. I just pulled out of my driveway, hit the gas, and was heading west on Sugar Ridge Road. I had to jam on the brakes so I didn't hit that bus. It come just some idiot drivers just veered over, went into the side of it, flipped it over. Luckily, no one got hurt bad. I was talking to a couple neighbors later, and they painted this scenario because the problem just keeps getting ignored in our city about these trucks. They said this scenario, and I put in better detail. It's like, what if that had been the fuel tanker truck that went through 2 days before? Because we keep getting traffic like that through our neighborhood. If that fuel tanker truck would have been there and been rolled over, I'd be dead, about 4 other people would be dead, and it would have burned down 2, possibly 3 houses because the bus landed in someone's front yard 30 feet away from the house next door. This is a problem that just keeps getting, washed under the rug. For every 1 truck they're pulling over on our road, there's 20 more that went through. We need more attention on this problem. I don't know what we got to do for it, but it's everywhere in this city. A lot of roads are getting this problem. And these accidents are going to start happening. This was not good seeing this accident happen. I got to just witness it. And it's like, if that had been a truck, there would have been a big problem. And we're very apprehensive about our road being turned into a truck route. It's just Waterbury was supposed to be used for a truck route, and now we're connecting a new and improved Sugar Ridge from Waterbury to Bender, and there just so happens to be a truck terminal right there on Taylor Street. How do we know we ain't gonna be having a couple hundred trucks coming through our neighborhood eventually? What's to stop this from happening? We're very apprehensive about this. We'd like some better assurances on this. Because we don't want it. It's just, I don't know. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Craig. I have Joanne Smith.
Joanne Smith, 34593 Lorraine Road. Over the last several years, in late winter, early spring, every other year, I have called the city service department for flooding in my backyard. The city service department will come out, assess the situation, and goes to the fire station, which is to the east of me, and jets the drain. I have heard before they've gone to the west also, and then my water's gone in 2 to 3 days. This year, on January 25th, I called the service department with the worst flooding I've seen, over 3 feet in some areas, deep in my backyard and my neighbor's backyard. And it keeps getting closer to my house as it was raining. I had to call the next day on the 26th and have the service department did come out. That day, the service guys said they could not help. They would not jet the drain. They said it was not the city's responsibility. After 8 years, it's not their responsibility. I called my councilman, Mr. Abens. He came out, looked at the property, and said the same thing, not city responsibility. It has taken 3 months for this water to evaporate. I was just finally able to get to the very back of my yard to cut the grass, and the ground's still spongy. Another rain, the water's got nowhere to go. This not only affects me, but it affects several homes to the east and the west of me, from the address 34551 to 34655 on Lorraine Road. I've been waiting over 3.5 months for someone to give me some sort of information. I was told that the drain was not installed by the city due to being not on any GIS maps. This drain could be anywhere from 60, 70, 80 years old. The GIS maps are only as good as the information that's put into it. If this isn't a city-installed drain, then why is fire station number 2 connecting PVC pipe to it? I was told that the service department put a camera in the drain. If so, when, where, how many feet did they go out, and what were the findings? I also want to make you aware that there's a home not too far from me that is directly dumping from a 3 or 4 inch pipe into that drain. Where is that water coming from? This house sits back behind me, and the pipe from their home is going into this drain, which crosses my backyard. I'd like to know why. Is it their sump pump water? Is it their rainwater? This house was built in 1973.
Mrs. Smith, pardon the interruption. Your 3 minutes has elapsed.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mrs. Swink?
I would like to move to give Mrs. Smith an additional or up to 3 minutes.
Second.
Thank you.
It was moved by Swank and seconded by DeVries to allow Mrs. Smith up to an additional 3 minutes to speak. All in
Thank you.
favor, say yes.
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 All opposed, say no. All right, please go ahead.
Okay. This house was built in 1973, the one that's draining the water now. And I'm just wondering if there was plans, did the inspector inspect this home, and the plans, were they approved for this drainage from the home to go into this major drain? If it was, then the city would know about this drain. Another contributor to the abundance of stagnant water that stays in my backyard is the property to the east of me. The rainwater from the gutters is going into an underground pipe and dumping into the backyard, into the area where all this flooding is appearing. When heavy rains come, you can actually stand there and see water gushing out of his pipe, contributing to all this stagnant water. Right now, I just would like to know what's happening with this. I sent pictures to Bruce Abens before, and he saw it firsthand, the amount of water that lays across our yards. You could put a small pond in there, and I would just like something done about it. When I look in the drains in the great opening down by the fire station, there's a trickle of water. When I come back towards my house, I look in the one that's in my neighbor's yard. I don't have an opening, I don't have a grate. I look in his, and it's mud, full of mud. There's a problem, it's not draining. And for the city not to help after 8 years, I'm dumbfounded. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Smith, for being here and for sharing your concerns. I have Mr. Bradley Baker.
Yes, Bradley Baker, 37801 Sugar Ridge Road, North Ridgeville here. Been a resident of North Ridgeville since '78 and Sugar Ridge since 1987. I want to thank Council President for providing some information for those of us interested in the Sugar Ridge corridor, as it's been called, and the changes there. I wanted to mention and start by saying I've been disappointed, candidly, in the city in not providing information to the residents, not telling us what's likely to happen, what may happen. We've been catching things on the side, little by little, the more we ask. Candidly, from a recipient of this, it seems a little patronizing. That's highly disappointing to me. But I'm not here just to complain. I don't know if any neighbor wants what's being proposed at all, wants really any changes whatsoever. I certainly don't. However, I recognize the city has things in work and maybe there's some bigger plans than our own. But if the goal is to have a wider street, which I guess the recommendations of 1 foot wider on each side, which just adds 2 feet. If there are recommendations to have bike paths on each side, the National Association for Bike Paths says 3 foot on each side is enough. We've put on the edge of the road is sufficient. Right now, the city plan here, or I shouldn't say the Sugar Ridge Rehabilitation Project recommendations is 60 foot of frontage. That's right of way. That's property that we own that the city uses. And I realize it's done, but it's kind of like taxes. I like to think it's my money being used to spend things. It's my property that's going to be used to widen these things. And I would think a perspective of being minimalist as opposed to maximalist. And the study was definitely the maximum 60 feet. What can we do at 60 feet? We can put 8 foot bike paths when you can live in each side with a 3 foot path. You can have a 5 foot sidewalk when the city currently allows and requires 4 foot sidewalks. We can have a swale between the sidewalk and the street, or you can have the swale as it has been in times past and is today in my property, and I can use that property. I'm concerned that what is happening is I can achieve the same goals. Instead of having 60 feet, we can have 36 feet. Let me double check that number. 36 feet. That's the difference in right-of-way. That's 18 feet for people on both sides of us are losing, and we can still achieve the same goals. That, to me, is most disappointing. And the maximalist perspective of this, I think, is inappropriate. 2 other points. There was a lot of concern in that report about traffic. I have some traffic reports too. Obviously, my neighbor has traffic concerns about trucks. The question was volume of traffic. Volume of traffic. Sugar Ridge Road backs up every year, every afternoon at least. And that's part of the issue they have.
Mr. Baker, I'm sorry,
gonna talk.
pardon the interruption.
Okay?
Mr. President,
Yes, Mrs. Swink.
I'd like to move to give Mr. Baker up to an additional 3 minutes.
Second.
It was moved by Swank and seconded by Abens to allow Mr. Baker up to an additional 3 minutes to speak this evening. All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Yes. All opposed, say no. All right, please.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
I shouldn't use all of it. In short, the problem is traffic from the companies on Race Road, primarily the two, what's the company name? Beckett Companies. They back up. The city has been refusing to recognize that potential, which would probably cost nearly as much as all this widening of the street, would be to purchase some property so that Taylor could go to Sugar Ridge, or I'm sorry, that Taylor would go to Race Road, would provide traffic going out to 57 without having everything have to funnel through Sugar Ridge. Secondly, in that traffic problems and all the accidents happening at Bender, I think the design of the Bender and Sugar Ridge Road is poor because you come up north going south on Bender, you don't come at a 90-degree angle. You come into about a 120-degree angle, and it's difficult to see around the corner. I'm not surprised that it's a heavy spot. 2 things like that would probably help in the traffic. It'll be done real quickly. Money's always an issue. I understand the issue. The city's committed to spend big bucks in $2+ million, or maybe $8 million. I don't know what the numbers are, but that's to doing the maximal process. If we take it back to a minimal process, I think those $2 million could certainly pave the street, and if we need to, we can do this in steps. We could then add bike paths thereafter. We could add 4-foot sidewalk thereafter. We can do this in pieces as opposed to doing everything at once and taking property, using property for city purposes, which is privately owned. Yes, you can. I think it's a bad idea to use a maximalist perspective. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. I think it's Jeff, is it Purcell?
Hi, Jeff Purcell, 37740 Sugar Ridge Road. I live right on the corner of Race and Sugar Ridge Road. I've had two neighbors come up to me today and say that approximately 300 feet of my frontage was going to be reduced by 20 feet in terms of depth, which equates to about 8,000 square feet. My house is 2,000 square feet. One, I'm just kind of confused why I'm hearing this from neighbors and not from the people who are planning on doing something with all of that land. Two, the city required my builder at the time to install sidewalks along the entire perimeter of my property at a cost, high cost. And I understand those are just going to be torn out. Quite frankly, I don't get involved in these things too often, and I just feel that if that much of my property is sort of being played with to do other things, I just want to know the correct way for me to stay involved so that I know these things are happening and I don't just get surprised one day with something in the mail telling me what's happening. That's it. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Purcell. I don't have any additional written submissions. Is there anybody else in attendance this evening who would like to address council? Sure, go ahead, sir. Just as a reminder, if you could please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. Jim Sturmel, 37872 Sugar Ridge Road, a resident in North Ridgeville for 39 years now. At the first meeting in April, I didn't address this issue because it seemed that while a group of us came up here, that nobody on council had a clue what it was that we were talking about. I thought it was a little unfair that I'd be the one to broadside you. I would have thought that all of you would have already at least had a general idea of what was going on and what had come out in the city newsletter. It reported a newsletter about the Sugar Ridge Road project. First of all, it stated in there about money raised from a congressional earmark, mayor's words. I contacted Bob Lotta's office and a neighbor contacted Sherrod Brown's office, and they both assured us that earmarks no longer exist, so I don't know where that came from. And they said there was $2 million for this project. And then after viewing the engineering study, which was presented to us by Mr. Jacobs, and again, thank you so much for the time and effort that you've put into this. I really appreciate it. So thank you very much. When they're talking about widening the lanes to 11 feet and putting 80 feet of bicycle lanes on each side, they're talking $7.23 million. So we have a long way to go to get to that number. Not even talking about another $437,000 for a sidewalk and then the roundabout. Of course, my biggest concern, and Al has already stated the current problems with the trucks, but the ongoing and future of the trucks. We've talked to officials of the city for years, and there's a certain desire that they do want to connect Taylor to Route 10. We know that the roundabout there is three-sided with a fourth side to be used. There's one property owner that's in the way that's at this point not allowing it to be connected to Waterbury. And Waterbury was built in order to carry the trucks. The former city engineer made it very clear to us that the plan was to cross Sugar Ridge at Waterbury and run down the railroad tracks. But when it became clear that the city wasn't going to be able to get the property along the railroad tracks, or it'd be very difficult to, he told us in no uncertain terms that, well, they're going to make Sugar Ridge the truck route. Well, now we find out that they're building a corridor, again, the mayor's words, serving both residential and industrial users. Again, these are the mayor's words, I'm not making this stuff up. And a corridor, according to definition, goes from point to point. And this clearly goes from Waterbury, which is where they want to connect, to the roundabout that they want to build at Bender. Where they can run the trucks through, they can either turn and go down Race Road to Taylor there, or to the new truck place at the Taylor Woods further on to the west.
Mr. Sturmel, your 3 minutes has elapsed.
Okay, I apologize.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mrs. Swink.
I move to give Mr. Sturmel up to an additional 3 minutes.
Second.
It was moved by Swink and seconded by Abens to allow Mr. Sturmel up to an additional 3 minutes to speak this evening. All in favor say yes.
Yes.
All opposed say no. Please
Thank
continue.
you, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. I guess what I'm looking for, the numbers are just staggering. Reading in the report, they said that if they did the full depth replacement, and it's certainly Sugar Ridge the road needs to be fixed. That's certainly not an argument on my part. Why they chose 1.05 miles from point to point really makes, it just got to be a question to be asked. But it's being designed, the numbers given were for a small roundabout that would carry cars only, but there is a line in there mentioning that they would increase the size of the roundabout in order to carry truck traffic in the future. So somebody put a bug in someone's ear there too. And I guess I'm just looking for assurances that Sugar Ridge is not going to become the truck route that some people really dream that it will be someday. I thank you very much, and thank you for the extra time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sturmel. Is there anybody else in attendance who wishes to speak? Mr. Ringwald?
Rudy Ringwall, 31966 Center Ridge Road here in North Ridgeville. I just want to piggyback on the drainage issue that we heard about. I had a similar issue when we were connecting to sewers. My son also had waterproofing done, and we have a, look, I'll call it a ditch, or it's a creek. It's fed by a stream that's back in the woods on the south side, and it comes across Center Ridge Road between my property and my son's property. Back in the 70s, the city came in and put in sewer tile that the person that owned my house before me had paid for, and the city put it in and covered it up and so on. They installed it incorrectly. We didn't find that out until we were trying to drain my son's new waterproofing and drainage. Was put in too high, so it cost us another almost $5,000 to have to excavate further back down to get it to go into that creek. Plus, they had to open up part of my driveway, which is asphalt, which now has to be remediated. I went back to the city. I went to the engineer's office, and they told me, well, you know, there's nothing we can do about that because apparently city records don't go back that far. And that surprises me, but they don't. I was unable to then give them proof that we extended that with more drainage tile that we paid for, and the city covered it up, same thing, further back, going all the way back into the woods on the north side. So when I met with the engineer, they said, well, we can't do much for you because it's on private property. So I said, okay, so if I put concrete and stop up that ditch on my side, then I can do that, right? Oh, no, you can't do that because it's draining all those houses on the south side. So I did get them to admit that, yes, it is a city ditch, and if it stops up, yes, they will come out and sewer jet it. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ringwald. Is there anybody else in attendance who wishes to speak this evening? Okay. Seeing none, the lobby session is now closed. We will move on to administrator reports. Up first, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President. On tonight's agenda, there are several items that I'll be asking for the emergency on, specifically 49, 50, 53, and 44. We are part of the state abandoned gas station program grant that we received. The city's consultant will be proceeding with a second remediation at the southwest corner. That's by Smash Pizza of Center Ridge Road and State Route 83 in order to treat petroleum contaminated soil and groundwater at the site between May 13th and May 17th. Some of that might occur in the Center Ridge Road right-of-way, which will result in partial lane closures. And that's on Wednesday, May 15th, from approximately 8 a.m. till 5 p.m. The eastbound lane on Center Ridge will be closed. So you'll not be able to access State Route 83 southbound during this time. So please use an alternate route. There will be signage in place. The street paving list is now out. We've appropriated $550,000 this year for paving materials. The Public Works Street Division will be paving the following 10 streets: Aronson, Barris, Cadet, Glen, Laurel, Manning Circle, Meadow Creek Oval, Knoll, Shady, and Sugar Ridge Road from Bender West to the Elyria border. Everything is dependent on weather conditions and is also subject to unforeseen circumstances. The city has also appropriated $900,000 for concrete pavement repairs. This work is being performed by an outside contractor and will be bid later this year. Tomorrow morning is Coffee and Conversation here in Council Chambers from 8:30 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. Hope to see you there. And on May 18th, it is Lorain County Beautiful Day, which is a Saturday. From 9 a.m. until noon, it's a great opportunity to play an active role in cleaning up our community and parks. We also have on Saturday, the 18th of May, it is the Visitors Bureau Discover the Ridge event. If you're interested, there are brochures around town with the information on there. The kickoff celebration starts at the library with opening ceremony at 10 a.m. with the VFW, excuse me, VFW Color Guard, and there'll be all sorts of fun and games there, including a petting zoo from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. A balloon twister from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. There are 26 locations participating in this event. And it is also, the brochure is available on our city's website. And also, we have our entry-level paramedic, firefighter, and police officer exams. Applications and testing will be accepted through May 27th, so you still have a little bit of time. Go on our city's website for more information on that. And at this point, Mr. President, I moved to go into executive session to consider the appointment, employment dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official.
Second.
It was moved by the mayor and seconded by Swink to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing the matters just explained by the mayor. Clerk, please call the roll.
Swink,
Yes.
Schaefer,
Yes.
Avens,
Yes.
Awig,
Yes.
DeVries,
Yes.
Jacobs.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
We're temporarily adjourned into executive session. All right, thank you for your patience, everybody. At this time, I'll make a motion to adjourn executive session and return to our regular session.
I'll second that.
The motion was made by Jacobs and seconded by Awig to adjourn executive session and return to regular session. Clerk, please call the roll.
Swink,
Yes.
Schaefer,
Yes.
Avens.
Yes.
Awig,
Yes.
DeVries,
Yes.
Jacobs.
Yes.
Motion passes, and we are back in regular session.
All right. Mr. Mayor, please continue with your report.
Mr. President, that concludes my report.
All right, the engineer's not here. Director of Finance?
Thank you, Council President. Before council tonight is 2024-51, an ordinance amending annual appropriations. In advance of this meeting, council received a memorandum detailing each item included in this amendment. I would like to ask council to consider adopting this legislation tonight with the emergency clause to provide the Department of Finance the resources necessary to meet our obligations. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Council is also in receipt of the March 2024 Parks and Recreation Division Report. I believe that brings us to recess.
I will make a motion to dispense with recess.
Second.
The motion was made by Awig and seconded by Swank to dispense with recess. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say yes.
Yes.
All opposed say no. Recess has been dispensed. We'll move along to first readings. Up first is 2024-49.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to purchase hydrants and appurtenances for the service department.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
move to dispense with the second and third readings.
Second.
The motion was made by the mayor and seconded by Awig to dispense with the second and third readings for 2024-49. Are there any comments at this time or questions?
Mr. President, we need some hydrants, and so we are looking to pass this and pass it with the emergency clause. Our water department needs to replenish some of our supply that we've gone through a little bit faster than normal.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Are there any additional comments or questions? Again, the motion was made by the mayor and seconded by Awig to dispense with the second and third readings for 2024-49. All in favor say yes.
Yes.
All opposed say no.
Mr. President, move to
carries.
adopt.
Second.
Mr. President, move to add the emergency clause for the reasons I just stated.
Second.
It was moved by the mayor and seconded by Awig to add the emergency clause to 2024-49 for the reasons stated by the mayor. On the emergency clause alone, all in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. All opposed say no. It was then moved by the mayor and seconded by Awig to adopt 2024-49 with the emergency clause in place. At this time, are there any comments or questions? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Swink,
Yes.
Schaefer,
Yes.
Avens.
Yes.
Awig,
Yes.
DeVries,
Yes.
Jacobs.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0, and 2024-49 is adopted.
2024-50.
An ordinance authorizing the participation in the ODOT road salt contracts awarded in 2024.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Move to dispense with the second and third readings.
Second.
The motion was made by the mayor and seconded by Awig to dispense with the second and third readings for 2024-50. Are there any comments or questions?
Not yet,
Here.
Mr. President.
I'm sorry?
Not yet.
Okay, hearing none, all in favor say yes.
Yes.
All opposed say no.
Mr. President, move to adopt.
Second.
Mr. President, move to add the emergency clause.
Second.
The reason being, we have an ODOT agreement that was actually due on Friday, and our service department was looking at how much room we have in the barn, whether we could fit any more salt in it. We don't have a whole lot of room in there, and they didn't want to enter into this agreement until they figured out how much we would need to be able to order for next year. They have figured that out, and we're looking to make this retroactive back to Friday.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It was moved by the mayor and seconded by Awig to add the emergency clause to 2024-50 for the reasons stated by the mayor. On the emergency clause alone, all in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. All opposed say no. It was then moved by the mayor and seconded by Awig to adopt 2024-50 with the emergency clause in place. Are there any comments or questions? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Swank,
Yes.
Schaefer,
Yes.
Avens,
Yes.
Awig,
Yes.
DeVries,
Yes.
Jacobs.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0, and 2024-50 is adopted.
2024-51.
An ordinance amending ordinance number 6121-2023 of the city of North Ridgeville, Ohio, providing appropriations for the period commencing January 1st, 2024, and ending December 31st, 2024.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. DeVries.
motion to dispense with the second and third reading?
Second?
The motion was made by DeVries and seconded by Awig to dispense with the second and third readings for 2024-51. Are there any comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor say yes.
Yes.
All opposed say no.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. DeVries.
motion to adopt?
Second?
Mr. President, motion to add the emergency clause for the reasons stated by the Director of Finance?
Second?
The motion was made by DeVries and seconded by Awig to add the emergency clause to 2024-51 for the reasons stated earlier in the meeting by the Director of Finance. On the emergency clause alone, all in favor say yes.
Yes.
All opposed say no. It was moved by DeVries and seconded by Awig to adopt 2024-51 with the emergency clause in place. Do you have any comments at this time? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Swank,
Yes.
Schaefer,
Yes.
Avens,
Yes.
Awig,
Yes.
DeVries,
Yes.
Jacobs.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0, and 2024-51 is adopted.
2024-52.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of North Ridgeville to enter into a cooperative agreement with Lorraine County for the replacement of the Chestnut Ridge Road Bridge, number 0531, the relocation of the city water main, and other appurtenances.
2024-53.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with Bob Turnez for the lease of real property for farming purposes.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
move to dispense with the second and third readings?
Second.
It was moved by the mayor and seconded by Swank to dispense with the second and third readings for 2024-53. Are there any comments or questions?
Mr. President, we
Yes,
just
Mr. Mayor.
closed on this property last week, so now that we own it, we're looking to enter into an agreement with the farmer who has been farming that property for many, many years. And in order to not disrupt his planting schedule and harvest schedule, we're looking to pass this with the emergency clause.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Are there any additional comments or questions?
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Abens?
question I have as far as the lease is concerned, what period of term is that for at this point?
It's 1 year,
1 year?
Yes.
Thank you.
this growing season.
Okay.
Are there any additional comments or questions?
Mr. President,
Yes, Mrs. Swank?
so this is gonna be renewed yearly, possibly?
Possibly,
Okay,
yes.
Thank you.
Are there any additional comments or questions? Again, it was moved by the mayor and seconded by Swank to dispense with the second and third readings for 2024-53. All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
All opposed, say no.
Mr. President, move to adopt.
Second.
Mr. President, move to add the emergency clause for the reasons stated.
Second.
It was moved by the mayor and seconded by Swank to add the emergency clause to 2024-53 for the reasons stated by the mayor. On the emergency clause alone, all in favor say yes.
Yes.
All opposed say no. It was then moved by the mayor and seconded by Swank to adopt 2024-53 with the emergency clause in place. Are there any comments or questions at this time? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Swank,
Yes.
Schaefer,
Yes.
Avens,
Yes.
Awig,
Yes.
DeVries,
Yes.
Jacobs.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0, and 2024-53 is adopted.
2024-54.
An ordinance amending ordinance number 2024-22, Exhibit A, by creating the position of Recreation Service Administrator.
There are no second readings on tonight's agenda. Under third readings, we have 2024-44.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to advertise for bids and enter into contract according to law and in a manner prescribed by law with the lowest and best bidder for the Avon Belden Road and Chestnut Ridge Road Roundabout, also known as LOR 8311.19, ODOT PID number 114797, for construction, inspection services, and associated work in an amount not to exceed $440,000.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mrs. Swink.
move to adopt.
Second.
Mr. President, move to add the emergency clause.
Second.
The
It
reason-
what,
The reason being, we would like to get this bid out sooner rather than the 30-day wait that would normally be in place.
Second.
it was moved by the mayor and seconded by Abens to add the emergency clause to 2024-44 for the reasons stated by the mayor. On the emergency clause alone, all in favor say yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All opposed say no. It was moved by Swank and seconded by DeVries to adopt 2024-44 with the emergency clause in place. At this time, are there any comments or questions? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Swank,
Yes.
Schaefer,
Yes.
Abens,
Yes.
Awig,
Yes.
DeVries,
Yes.
Jacobs.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0, and 2024-44 is adopted.
As for meeting announcements, a city council public hearing will be held on Monday, May 20th, 2024 at 6:45 PM here in city council chambers, and that is to discuss ordinance number 2024-48. I'm sorry, that is for the public to comment on 2024-48. And the next regular city council meeting will be on Monday, May 20th, 2024 at 7 PM here in council chambers. With no further business before us this evening, this meeting is adjourned.